Picture this, it's 3 a.m. and you're wide awake. Not because you want to be, but because your bladder once again overruled your brain. By the time most men reach their late 60s, that scenario is almost inevitable. Histological studies show that 80+% of men over 70 have an enlarged prostate, or benign prostatic hyperplasia, BP. Beyond the inconvenience of midnight bathroom trips, BPH erodes sleep architecture, suppresses growth hormone pulses, and chips away at mood, focus, and metabolic health the very next day. In other words, what happens in your pelvis never stays in your pelvis. It ricochets through your entire neuroendocrine system. Traditionally, most conversations about natural prostate support have centered on saw, palmetto, yet a 2023 Cochrane review concluded that saw palmetto berries on their own provide little to no benefit for urinary symptoms or prostate volume. So if the old hero isn't living up to its legend, where should we look next? Enter a deep crimson fruit whose seeds are encased in jewel-like arils, the pomegranate. In 2023, researchers used nanovesicles isolated from pomegranate juice to treat a mouse model of BPH. The vesicles significantly reduced prostate weight and cellular proliferation markers without hormonal side effects. Parallel cellular work shows that ponicalagins, the polyphenols that give pomegranate its tart bite, dampen angiogenic signaling and oxidative stress inside overgrown prostate tissue. Even more intriguing, downstream gut microbiome metabolites such as urolithin A appear to modulate androgen receptor activity, hinting at a gut-prostate signaling axis we're only beginning to map. Why does this matter? Because lower urinary tract symptoms are more than an annoyance. They're a stressor that keeps the sympathetic nervous system humming all night. Chronically fragmented sleep accelerates insulin resistance, elevates blood pressure, and impairs emotion regulation circuits in the prefrontal cortex. A swollen prostate, in other words, can quietly age your brain. Before moving straight to the topic, I want you to watch the video completely before adopting any tool or protocol, because I do a lot of research before making a video, so it makes sense. So better understand the video and my research first, because your health matters to me a lot. Thank you. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to unpack 6 science-backed breakthroughs that connect this deceptively simple fruit to measurable improvements in prostate size, urinary flow, and systemic vitality. You'll learn the inflammatory switch inside prostatic tissue that pomegranate polyphenols appear to flip, how timing your intake with circadian androgen rhythms amplifies the effect, a synergistic breathing protocol that calms pelvic floor hypertonicity so the fruit's biochemistry can work unopposed, simple grocery store cues for identifying the highest potency arils, hint, it's not about size, microbiome tuning habits that help your gut convert pomegranate with heat therapy to reduce nocturia faster. Throughout, I'll translate peer-reviewed data into concrete protocols you can implement tonight. No hype, just neuroscience and actionable tools. Ready to reclaim uninterrupted sleep, sharper cognition, and a healthier prostate? Let's dive in. Let's begin where most prostate issues begin, at the cellular level, inside the prostate's glandular tissue. As men age, hormonal fluctuations, particularly in the balance between testosterone and dihydrotestosterone, DHT, can trigger a low-grade chronic inflammatory response. This inflammation becomes a silent architect of benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH. It activates immune cells, increases oxidative stress, and promotes the abnormal growth of prostate tissue. But here's what's fascinating. Several studies now suggest that pomegranate-delayed polyphenols, especially punicalagins, can effectively modulate this inflammatory cascade. Think of punicalagins as molecular peacekeepers. They don't just fight inflammation with blunt force like NSAIDs, but instead regulate the pathways that initiate and maintain inflammation in the first place. One of the key enzymes involved in this inflammatory process is cyclooxygenase 2, or COX-2. When COX-2 activity goes up, in prostate cells, it signals for the release of prostaglandins, chemical messengers that ramp up inflammation and pain. In clinical cell studies, pomegranate extract has been shown to significantly suppress COX-2 expression, effectively turning down the inflammatory volume in prostate tissue. Another target is nuclear factor kappa B, NF-κB, a transcription factor that acts like a master switch for inflammation. And when activated, NF-κB triggers the production of cytokines like IL-6 and TNF-alpha that drive tissue swelling, fibrosis, and cellular proliferation. Research reveals that pomegranate polyphenols can inhibit the activation of NF-κB in prostate cells, reducing both inflammatory signaling and abnormal cell growth. What's happening in your body when you drink pomegranate juice or eat the bajarals is this. Pumacologens are absorbed in the gut and within hours begin to circulate in the bloodstream. From there, they penetrate tissues, including the prostate, and begin modulating gene expression related to inflammation. This isn't about masking symptoms. It's about changing the chemical environment that makes the prostate swell in the first place. Now, you might be thinking, why not just take anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen? The answer lies in the subtlety of natural compounds. Unlike pharmaceuticals, punicalagins don't disrupt systemic pathways or stress the kidneys. Instead, they work with your body's natural healing systems to restore balance without creating dependency or side effects. One human pilot study showed that men with elevated PSA, TA marker often linked to inflammation and prostate stress, who consumed pomegranate juice daily for a year experienced a significant slowdown in PSA doubling time, suggesting a stabilizing effect on prostate health. While more large-scale research is needed, the early signs are promising. Here's a simple tool to apply. Incorporate 8 to 12 ounces of fresh pomegranate juice into your morning routine. Aim for juice with no added sugars and ideally cold press to preserve polyphenol content. If juice isn't an option, a handful of fresh arils or a standardized polyphenol extract capsule can serve as effective alternatives. And don't forget consistency. Like most anti-inflammatory interventions, the benefits of pomegranate compounds build over time. You're not just targeting symptoms. You're shifting the biology of your prostate one day at a time. So the next time you're weighing your options for supporting prostate health, consider this. Pomegranate doesn't just soothe symptoms, it alters the landscape of inflammation itself, helping your body return to a state of cellular calm. Now we'll explore how your hormones, specifically testosterone and DHT, fluctuate across the day, and why timing your pomegranate intake can dramatically influence its effects on the prostate. Stay with me. If you're already eating healthy and taking steps to reduce inflammation, timing might be the tool you didn't realize was missing. The human body doesn't respond to nutrients and compounds the same way at all times of day. That's because nearly every cell in your body, including those in the prostate, follows a circadian rhythm, a biological clock that governs hormonal release, cellular repair, and even immune signaling. Let's focus on two key players, testosterone and its more potent derivative, dihydrotestosterone, DHT. Both of these androgens have a direct impact on prostate tissue. As we age, testosterone levels tend to drop, while the local conversion to DHT often increases in prostate cells, contributing to enlargement and inflammation. But here's the twist. Testosterone production is highest in the early morning, peaking between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. This rhythm isn't random. It's deeply rooted in your hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, the hormonal command center of your brain and body. Why does this matter for pomegranate intake? Because pomegranate compounds don't just float aimlessly in the bloodstream. They interact with hormone receptors and signaling molecules, and their effectiveness can be enhanced or diminished depending on your hormonal environment. Consuming pomegranate early in the day, when testosterone and DHT levels are naturally elevated, appears to have greater bioactivity in tissues like the prostate, potentially helping to rebalance androgen signaling and reduce local overactivation of DHT receptors. A recent study on nutrient-hormone interactions showed that polyphenols ingested during peak androgen times led to stronger gene modulation effects in hormone-sensitive tissues. In plain terms, your body listens more carefully to certain nutrients when your hormones are awake and talking. Here's what the research suggests. Having your pomegranate, whether in juice, arils, or extract form, between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. allows it to interact more effectively with active hormonal pathways. This is when your androgen receptors are more responsive and your metabolism is primed for antioxidant delivery. And there's more. Early morning pomegranate intake also aligns with cortisol's natural peak. Now, cortisol often gets a bad reputation, but in the right dose at the right time, it plays a critical role in managing inflammation and modulating immune function. Polyphenols like punicalagins may work synergistically with this cortisol spike to calm down inflammatory activity in the prostate and surrounding tissues. Let me give you a simple morning protocol. Upon waking, hydrate with a glass of water and spend 5 to 10 minutes in natural light to reinforce circadian alignment. 30 to 60 minutes later, consume your pomegranate dose, either 8 to 12 ounces of juice, a small bowl of fresh arils, or a standardized extract capsule, 250 to 500 milligrams of polyphenols. Pair with protein or healthy fat to slow digestion slightly and support better absorption of polyphenols. Here's a tip if you're drinking juice. Swirl it slowly in your mouth for a few seconds before swallowing. Why? Because some polyphenols begin absorbing in the oral mucosa before even reaching your gut. And now, a gentle reminder. If these insights are helping you think differently about your health, I invite you to subscribe. We dive deep into neuroscience-backed tools every week, all designed to help you live longer and feel better without guesswork. Back to timing. One additional benefit of morning consumption is what it prevents. Taking pomegranate too late in the evening may interfere with melatonin signaling in some sensitive individuals. While rare, the antioxidants can slightly increase alertness in those with an already elevated stress profile. Morning timing avoids that risk and leverages your body's natural hormonal intelligence. So instead of thinking of nutrition as a what-only question, begin asking when. When you feed your biology matters almost as much as what you feed it. The right compound at the wrong time may do little. The right compound at the right time can transform everything. Next, we'll explore something that's often overlooked but deeply impactful: how chronic pelvic floor tension can silently worsen prostate symptoms, and how one simple breathwork technique can work hand in hand with pomegranate to reverse that. Let's keep going. If you've ever struggled with slow or hesitant urination, frequent urges at night, or that nagging sense of incomplete emptying, there's a strong chance it's not just your prostate. There's a hidden player involved that very few people talk about: the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is a network of muscles that supports the bladder, prostate, rectum, and in men, even helps regulate erectile function and ejaculatory control. When it's working properly, it contracts and relaxes in harmony with your nervous system. But when it's overly tense, often due to chronic stress, poor posture, or years of sitting, it becomes a bottleneck. Even if your prostate begins to shrink from anti-inflammatory support like pomegranate, a hypertonic pelvic floor can still restrict urinary flow, cause discomfort, and keep the bladder from fully relaxing. Here's what's happening neurologically. Chronic stress activates the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight circuit. This doesn't just increase heart rate or spike cortisol, it also sends signals to the pelvic floor muscles to remain partially contracted. The problem is, most men don't realize this tension is happening until symptoms emerge. Over time, this sympathetic overdrive turns into a loop. Urinary difficulty increases stress, and stress maintains muscle tightness, which worsens symptoms. But the good news is that this loop can be broken through breath work. Deep, diaphragmatic breathing is one of the fastest and most reliable ways to shift from sympathetic activation into parasympathetic recovery. When done properly, it communicates to your nervous system that you are safe, restoring tone to the vagus nerve and encouraging relaxation of internal muscles, including the pelvic floor. A simple tool to apply is the 4-7-8 breath. Here's how to do it. Sit or lie comfortably with one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Inhale slowly through your nose for 4 seconds, expanding your belly. Hold that breath for 7 seconds. This is key for vagal activation. Exhale gently and completely through your mouth for 8 seconds. Repeat this cycle 4 to 6 times, ideally twice per day. When practiced consistently, especially in the evening, this breathwork routine not only reduces pelvic floor tension, but also enhances the parasympathetic conditions under which your prostate can heal. Think of it like preparing the soil before planting a seed. Pomegranate supplies the biochemical nutrients. Breathwork clears the space for them to take root. In fact, new integrative approaches to men's health are starting to pair antioxidant therapies with neuromuscular training, showing that physical relaxation can significantly amplify the effect of natural compounds on urinary function and inflammation markers. One clinical model revealed that men who incorporated structured breathing and relaxation protocols alongside polyphenol supplementation saw greater reductions in nocturia and urgency than those using nutrition alone. So here's a simple protocol. Morning, take your pomegranate intake as discussed earlier. Evening, practice 4-7-8 breathing for 5 to 10 minutes while lying on your back, knees bent to reduce lower back strain. Optional add-on, place a warm compress on your lower abdomen or perineum during the breathwork session. The heat further relaxes pelvic musculature and improves blood flow. Have you noticed how stress can show up as tension in the jaw, neck, or shoulders? The same thing happens deeper in your body, but it's harder to detect. This technique helps you connect with and consciously release tension where it matters most for prostate health. Now we'll move from the internal to the external. How to identify the most potent polyphenol-rich pomegranates in your local grocery store. Because not all fruit delivers the same healing power, let's make sure you're choosing the best. Not all pomegranates are created equal. And if you're relying on this fruit to support your prostate health, it's critical to understand how to choose the varieties with the highest concentration of the compounds that matter, namely punicalagins, anthocyanins, and ellagic acid. We tend to think that if a fruit looks fresh or large, it must be good. But when it comes to pomegranates, what truly matters is the internal chemistry, and that chemistry is often reflected in subtle external cues. Let's start with color. A deeper, darker red skin is generally associated with higher antioxidant content. Why? Because the pigments responsible for that bold red hue, particularly anthocyanins, are also powerful antioxidants. These same compounds have been shown to contribute to reductions in oxidative stress within prostate tissue, supporting cellular resilience and reducing inflammation. So here's your first rule. Go for deep red, slightly rough-skinned pomegranates. They tend to be more mature and richer in polyphenols. Next is weight. A heavier pomegranate is often a juicier one, and that means more arils per fruit and less rind. Since the juice is where punicalagins are most concentrated, a denser fruit typically delivers more of the anti-inflammatory compounds you're looking for. So the second rule, choose fruit that feels heavier than it looks. That weight to size ratio is a quick indicator of potency. Now let's talk about skin texture. You might think that a perfectly smooth pomegranate is ideal, but some of the most polyphenol-rich varieties have slightly rough or leathery skin with gentle ridging or angular sides. That slight roughness can be a natural sign of sun exposure during growth, which encourages more robust phytochemical production. The same way stress can toughen our physiology, it can also strengthen a fruit's chemistry. Here's a third rule. Don't shy away from slightly ridged or rustic-looking pomegranates. They often pack more of a healing punch than the polished ones. Now, what if fresh pomegranates aren't in season or available where you live? In that case, you still have excellent options. Cold-pressed pomegranate juice. Look for one that is not from concentrate and contains no added sugars. It should have a slightly tart, bold flavor. That sharpness indicates active polyphenols. Pomegranate concentrate used in small doses, typically 1 tablespoon mixed in water. Look for those labeled as high in punicalagins or total polyphenols, typically measured in milligrams per serving. Pomegranate extract capsules, which are standardized for punicalagin or ellagic acid content. Choose third-party tested brands to ensure potency and purity. Here's a practical shopping protocol to follow. Fresh fruit. Choose dark red, heavy, and slightly rough-skinned pomegranates. Juice by refrigerated, cold-pressed, unsweetened varieties in dark bottles to protect antioxidants from light damage. Capsules or powders. Look for products that provide at least 250 to 500 milligrams of total punifolagens per serving, ideally taken in the morning, as discussed in Part 2. One optional but powerful upgrade: if you have access to a farmer's market or Middle Eastern grocery store, ask for the wonderful variety or the Kendari variety. These cultivars are often richer in medicinal compounds and have been studied for their higher punicolagen and ellagic acid content. And here's your tool. Once a week, rotate between fresh arils, juice, and extract. This variety keeps your intake interesting and gives your body a range of delivery formats to absorb and utilize polyphenols differently. If this insight is helping you make smarter choices for your health, consider subscribing to the channel. Every week, we unpack powerful yet practical science like this, tools that help you become stronger, clearer, and more in control of your well-being. Next, we're going deeper into your gut, the real control center for converting pomegranate's compounds into one of the most potent prostate-protecting molecules discovered so far, urolithin A. And the real magic? Your microbiome holds the key. Let's explore how to unlock it. You've heard the saying, you are what you eat. But when it comes to pomegranate's benefits for prostate health, that's only half true. The real story is this: you are what your gut bacteria can transform. Pomegranate is rich in polyphenols like punicolagens and ellagic acid, but these compounds don't act alone. Once ingested, they pass through the upper digestive system mostly unchanged until they reach the colon. That's where the magic happens. In your large intestine, certain strains of beneficial gut bacteria take these raw compounds and convert them into a powerful metabolite called urolithin A. And urolithin A is where things get interesting for your prostate. Recent clinical models suggest that urolithin A does two critical things in relation to prostate health. First, it reduces oxidative stress at a mitochondrial level, which helps preserve the health and energy output of cells in the prostate and bladder. Second, it appears to modulate androgen receptor signaling, effectively calming down the overactivity of DHT that often drives prostate enlargement and inflammation. But here's the key. Not everyone produces urolithin A in the same quantity. In fact, depending on your gut microbiome composition, your body may convert a lot or very little of pomegranate's polyphenols into this next level compound. This is why two people can consume the same fruit and experience vastly different benefits. So how do you boost your body's natural production of urolithin A? It starts with nurturing the right microbial environment. Research has identified several bacterial genera, like Gordonibacter and Eligibacter, that are capable of converting ellagic acid into urolithin A. These bacteria thrive when you feed your gut a steady diet of prebiotics, plant fibers, and polyphenol-rich foods. Here's a simple, research-informed protocol to increase your urolithin A production. Daily prebiotic fiber. Include at least one serving of foods like oats, flax seeds, asparagus, or garlic. And if you access your foods safely and get tons of protea per day, you will get all the other benefits. Researchers have identified several bacteria that are keeping your urolithin A production. Daily prebiotic fiber. Include at least one serving of foods like oats, flax seeds, asparagus, or these nourish the very bacteria responsible for metabolizing pomegranate compounds. Polyphenol variety. Don't rely solely on pomegranate. Blueberries, raspberries, and walnuts also contain precursors that support microbial diversity. This ecosystem richness enhances overall conversion efficiency. Limit antimicrobial disruption, avoid unnecessary use of alcohol-based mouthwash, antibiotics when not prescribed, and processed foods, all of which can disrupt your gut's ability to produce urolithin A. Fermented foods for stability. Add a few servings of yogurt, kefir, kimchi, or sauerkraut per week to encourage microbial resilience. It's also important to understand that consistency matters more than perfection. A single glass of pomegranate juice won't shift your microbiome overnight, but small, Repeated exposures to polyphenol-rich foods and gut-supportive fibers can. Over time, this creates the microbial capacity to turn your nutrition into medicine. Here's something empowering. Your microbiome is not fixed. It's adaptable, and it changes in response to your habits. In just 2 to 3 weeks, the diversity and activity of gut bacteria can shift significantly. That means the effort you put in today can create a healthier internal environment that continues serving your prostate for months or years to come. A question to ask yourself: when was the last time you considered your gut as a prostate health tool? Because in reality, the gut is the pharmacist of the body, processing, converting, and delivering the compounds that fuel healing or create dysfunction. When you support the right bacteria, you activate the full power of foods like pomegranate, not just as antioxidants, but as biologically active signaling agents. Now we'll bring it all together with a nighttime ritual that combines pomegranate intake with heat therapy to reduce nocturia and support deep, restorative sleep. If waking up to pee has become the norm, what you hear next could be a game changer. Let's keep going. If you've ever found yourself waking up once, twice, even 3 times a night to urinate, you already know how disruptive nocturia can be, not just for your sleep, but for your mental clarity, hormone balance, and immune health. What's often misunderstood is that this isn't just a bladder issue. It's a whole system issue involving the prostate, the nervous system, and even the quality of sleep architecture. And here's where the power of ritual comes in. While we've discussed the role of inflammation, hormones, and gut bacteria, there's one more layer we can address: neuromuscular relaxation and blood flow in the lower abdomen and pelvis, especially in the evening. The prostate is a highly vascular organ. Its ability to shrink, function properly, and reduce pressure on the bladder is directly tied to blood circulation. At night, most men unknowingly enter sleep with subtle tension in the pelvic floor or lower abdomen. This restricts blood flow, maintains low-grade muscular contraction, and keeps the bladder in a more active state, primed to signal wakefulness, even with small volumes of urine. One of the simplest ways to reverse this? Targeted heat therapy. When applied to the lower abdomen or perineum, the area between the genitals and anus, gentle heat causes blood vessels to dilate, softens connective tissue, and cues the body into a parasympathetic state. This doesn't just feel good, it has real physiological effects. Improved hypersensitivity to prostate tissues, reduced nerve hypersensitivity around the bladder neck, and faster clearance of local inflammation. Now, combine that with the anti-inflammatory, antioxidant power of pomegranate polyphenols, and you get a synergistic effect. Biochemical support meets neuromuscular recovery. Here's a nightly protocol you can try. 30 to 60 minutes before bed, consume your second pomegranate dose, if splitting intake into AM/PM. Option B, a handful of arils. Option C, a half dose of a polyphenol capsule if your supplement supports it. Apply moist heat to the lower abdomen or perineum for 10 to 15 minutes. Use a warm water bottle, heating pad on low, or warm towel. Sit or recline comfortably. Focus on slow breathing to enhance parasympathetic activation. You can combine this with the 4-7-8 breath technique from part 3. Lights off or dimmed afterward. This signals your pineal gland to begin melatonin production and primes your body for deep sleep, another pillar of prostate repair. The real power in this routine is not just what it does physiologically, but what it does behaviorally. When you commit to this kind of ritual consistently, you're sending a message to your nervous system: it's time to release, it's time to heal. In clinical observations, men who adopted heat therapy protocols before bed, alongside natural anti-inflammatory support, reported reduced nighttime urinary frequency within 2 to 3 weeks, sleep duration improved, energy levels increased, and subjective reports of bladder tension and urgency dropped. A question worth reflecting on: what if the reason you're still waking up at night isn't just your prostate? It's the absence of a signal to your body that it's safe to rest. This nightly ritual becomes that signal, a practice that says it's time to unwind. You've done enough today. And in doing so, it gives your body the conditions it needs to heal deeply, not just at the surface level, but from the inside out. Now, we'll bring all 6 insights together into a powerful, science-backed conclusion. We'll review the tools, connect the dots, and invite you to try just one change tonight, because small, smart actions done consistently can profoundly shift your health trajectory. Let's wrap it all together. Let's step back for a moment and look at what we've covered. Because if you're here, it means you care, not just about treating symptoms, but about reclaiming real, foundational health. We began with a powerful insight that prostate enlargement is not just a result of age, but of chronic inflammation, hormonal imbalance, nervous system tension, and even microbial inefficiency. We discovered that one fruit, pomegranate, holds remarkable potential to intervene in each of these pathways. But the key lies not in the fruit alone, but in how you engage with it. And when processed foods bring you into a deep state of mindfulness, it helps you increase. You now know that punicalagins and ellagic acid, the active compounds in pomegranate, can reduce inflammation in the prostate by targeting enzymes like COX-2 and inflammatory gene regulators like NF-κB. When consumed in the morning, timed with your body's natural hormone rhythms, those compounds become more than antioxidants. They become strategic allies in restoring hormonal balance and cellular calm. You've also seen how the nervous system plays a role, how pelvic floor tension driven by chronic stress and sympathetic overdrive can make prostate symptoms worse, and how breath work and gentle heat, when used intentionally, can relax that tension and allow blood flow and healing to return. We move deeper into the gut, where the transformation of pomegranate into urolithin A unfolds, not automatically, but in cooperation with the right microbes. You learned how to feed and support those microbes through fiber, fermented foods, and consistent polyphenol exposure. And finally, we brought it all home with a nightly ritual, a simple, calming practice that pairs pomegranate's biochemical power with the body's natural rhythms of repair. Not a gimmick, not a hack, a ritual anchored in science, guided by awareness, and built for real life. So what's the next step? Start with one tool. Maybe it's drinking cold-pressed pomegranate juice with your breakfast. Maybe it's setting aside 5 minutes tonight to lie down, apply warmth to your lower abdomen, and breathe. Or maybe it's just choosing a heavier, deeper red pomegranate the next time you shop, knowing now why that choice matters. Because what you do with your attention and your habits has the power to change your biology. Not all at once, but step by step. The same way inflammation builds silently, healing can build quietly through steady, intelligent action. And if this conversation resonated with you, if you're feeling more empowered, more informed, more capable of making a difference in your health, I invite you to join us. Like this video, leave a comment sharing what you'll try first, and subscribe to this channel. Here, we translate neuroscience, psychology, and human physiology into real, usable tools for your body, your brain, and your future. This isn't about chasing quick fixes. It's about learning how to live better with science as your guide and consistency as your superpower. So try it tonight. One change, one step toward a quieter body, a stronger system, and a more restorative sleep. You deserve that. Let's keep growing together.